So welcome to the May edition of Good News with Kev and Danielle. I'm Kev.
And I'm Danielle.
And it's so great to have you here for this episode because it's springtime.
Smell the, actually, no.
Smell the paper, plastic, fake,
I don't know.
silk fake flowers.
But we do have some of these in our garden and it smells great.
We do. And the weather has been so beautiful. And I don't know about you, but I mean, winter felt long, but didn't feel as long as I was expecting it to feel.
Yeah. Like during the pandemic, I was fully expecting it to feel like forever. So I was actually planning. You can remember me talking in the fall when we were coming into winter. I was planning for my depression and how to ward it off.
And it's always good when you plan for your depression in advance.
Well, if you can figure out the things that you need to do to make it better,
what
why
are your
not?
Triggers and what are those kind of things? What are your coping mechanisms?
Oh, the
That's
darkness.
So good.
Dark in the morning and dark at night.
It's
oh
brutal.
My goodness. That is
so
brutal.
Yeah.
So we ended up being outside.
We
far
did.
more than we have ever been outside in our entire adult life.
Yeah.
The last time I was outside as much as we were this winter, I was in a full snowsuit and
not cold. You can actually enjoy winter a lot better when you're wearing the proper clothing. It's weird. Who would have figured?
But we were like,
oh, our mothers
kids.
knew. They used to tell us that when we were
put
kids.
Put your hat on. Put socks on with your shoes. And wear boots. Yeah, all those things that we were supposed to do that we didn't necessarily do.
Exactly. But now it's nice. It's like 30 degrees here in our city of Ottawa this past week. And it's just been absolutely beautiful. The flowers are out. The blue skies.
We made it.
We made it. Feels so good. We made it.
Things are starting to open up now with the pandemic. So that's good too. We can see people.
That's right. It was a novel idea.
Yeah, that's been nice.
Yeah. And so in this month's episode, what are we going to focus on this month, Danielle?
So this month, because right at the beginning of June, we have something called the Big Give that we're going to be a part of. And so this is something that started here in Ottawa with a bunch of churches that decided to be generous in whatever way. No churches had a mandate of this is how you're going to give, but all the churches under the same umbrella of the Big Give with a movement of generosity in one way or another.
It was like a no strings attached. We just want to be a blessing to the communities that the church buildings were in, whether it was free yard sales, free services, free dog washes, car washes, things like that, right? Just to be a blessing. Yeah.
And so actually last year we had to become creative because we were doing it during the pandemic. This year again, we're doing it during the pandemic. So we want to make sure to follow the restrictions and guidelines as to what the government and public health recommends.
Right.
So actually at the end of this episode, we're going to have a video of last year's Big Give, which is a lot of fun.
Cool.
So we're going to be interviewing some people today from organizations that we're partnering with in order to facilitate the Big Give for this year. And for now, we can just kind of talk and just shoot the breeze a little bit about being involved in the community, volunteerism, that kind of thing.
Right, because so many organizations that kind of bring blessing into their community require so heavily on volunteers. It's such a huge part. I actually remember reading a report that came out about 2 years ago on nonprofits in the community, just the dollar value that brings back to a city was in the billions. Like when you think of the volunteer hours that people do at food banks, at shelters, at different kind of things to support kids and teens and the elderly, the disabled, anything like that, it's just absolutely amazing. So it's such an important thing within a community. And so we actually met through volunteering.
That's true.
That's how we met.
But I'm not sure if either one of us was really in it for the fact of like, we want to do good in the community. It was a really fun organization to be a part of.
Oh, it was a great organization. It was an organization that put on like musicals and kind of like Broadway style shows and cabaret kind of concert. And they raised money for the Children's Hospital in Montreal, which was an amazing cause.
We were really happy to be a part of that. But
absolutely. But
we were kind of like, this is a ton of fun. I just have to be involved in this.
And I volunteered there to meet girls. And it worked.
Well, it worked. Actually, If you would put that a girl and take away the plural,
a girl.
that would be better.
Yeah, singular, exactly.
So yeah, that's where we met, and I think you were more involved in volunteerism when we were young. Like we were kids at that point in our young 20s.
Yeah.
You were more involved in volunteer work than I was. So like, what kinds of things?
Well, I volunteered. Probably the biggest stepping out of my comfort zone that I ever did to volunteer was I became a big brother for a little while. So probably for a period of 3 years.
Like with the Big Brothers Association.
Yeah, the Big Brothers
not
and Big
like
Sisters.
Your mom had another kid.
No. Big Brothers, Big Sister Association. So they kind of partner volunteers up with single parent families just to kind of bring some mentoring and some, older, friendship to a child in a single parent home. So that was a really a good experience for me, actually.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Like, what was it that made you decide to, because that does sound outside of your comfort zone.
It was so outside of my comfort zone at the time.
Our kids are teenagers now, but when we were young, you were like, oh my gosh, working with teenagers, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or when our kids become teenagers, you were terrified. So like, what made you...
Honestly, I think I saw a commercial about it. I'm not kidding. I was very influenced by multimedia and television. So
very suggestible.
Very suggestible, right? Just have people crying on the TV. I'm crying and I'm in. I'll sign up. But no, I think it was just I saw a commercial or saw an ad, an interview about it, and I had just started working. I had graduated from school, and I figured, I was single. I had a lot of time on my hand. My weekends were pretty much always free. So I figured, let's just try something like this. And it was a huge blessing for me personally. It really,
and I think
grew
for
a
the
lot.
young man as well. Like I remember going to his house for a barbecue. You and I were together and married at that point, and I think Cameron was on the way.
Yeah,
but
when he was graduating from high school.
Yeah, graduating from high school. So
it
was kind of awesome to see you'd spent a lot of years with him, and I think you learned a lot, and I think he grew a lot.
I hope so.
Yeah. So that was one thing. But the other thing I'm thinking of is I remember years ago hearing that your grandmother had a pretty cool award. She received a pretty cool award for volunteerism.
Yeah. So when was it? I'm looking at my notes here. 1997. So in 1997, my grandmother won. What was it called? It was called the Governor General Caring Canadian Award.
Sovereign's Medal.
Yeah, the Sovereign's Medal. That's what she got.
For volunteers.
For volunteerism for 6 decades.
Wow.
Of volunteer service, like at her church, at the local hospital, different organizations like that. So
long-term care.
Yeah.
She did everything.
And honestly, it was a little bit of a surprise because my grandmother was, but again, she was
humble.
such a sweet lady and so humble and so sweet. Like she wasn't boasting about any of this stuff. I had no clue. I knew she volunteered at the hospital, but you'd never really clue into that stuff. And then when she got this award, I was just like, wow,
that's probably something that really describes people who volunteer.
Sure.
Like
oh, my goodness.
That servant's heart kind of a thing. They're not boasting and telling everybody about everything that they do. It's pretty amazing.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
We have some people even like a part of our community that I am just like mind boggled by to think of. And there's actually like some awards that are given out in the community. Like I'm thinking right now of people that I know who have volunteered in incredible ways and just really like shared their own life with so many different people.
Oh, yeah.
In so many different ways that like I have to think about. Like we just think, oh, well, we expect people to volunteer, but actually it's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah. And we had a lady in the church who won a massive award. I can't remember what it was, but for her volunteerism at the Ottawa hospital here.
Yes.
We've had people kind of winning awards, with whatchamacallit, with the police safety because of the work that's being done in the community. Like it's just been amazing. Again, to see people's hearts for their community, right? As we're blessed, like then we just be a blessing back. And it's just so awesome to see people step up and serve in our communities that way. So
I'm trying to think though, to be involved in a community organization and to really give back. You talked about, that humble kind of servant's heart. What is the thing that is so rewarding? That's
a really good question. I mean, I think for me, in my case with Beckett Players, volunteering there for over 15 years, well, I got a wife. So that was that was kind of the reward.
Good answer.
Yeah,
Good
I got
answer.
a really good wife, married over 20 years now.
That one's a little bit more of like, I'm volunteering to
Yes.
get something.
No,
and
you know
so
what?
you
I
got
think
married.
there's just
Good.
something because we all have problems. And we all have struggles.
Yeah.
And I think when you can get outside of your own problems, outside of your own struggles, just for a little while, and give something back to someone else's struggles and someone else's problems, right? There's just something collectively as human beings that when we're actually caring for one another in such a capacity, I think there's just this intrinsic reward because I think it's a part of the way that we're made.
So
we're made to love each other.
And you're talking about like if there's something that, you're going through your own struggle, helping somebody else sort of pulls you out of it. The other perspective that I'm thinking of is if you've been through something and come out on the other side. I see so many people that want to volunteer or serve or help in the areas that they've gotten freedom from and gotten over. So I've seen that as well. Or if they've seen their parent, die and go through palliative care, then they start
volunteering in a palliative care home.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Exactly.
Well, even for you with your chaplaincy, started off as a volunteer role.
Yeah, I started volunteering in the chaplaincy just because I had great passion to help out in the community. And I really looked around and went, okay, there's some struggles, some difficult things that are going on. And, what do I have to offer? What do we have to offer that we can help support and be a part of the solution and not just allow problems to keep going? There's always something, I think, that each of us can do.
Yeah. Well, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So I hope this kind of encourages you a little bit. Like if you are a volunteer in some kind of capacity, man, hats off to you. We love you. We so appreciate you.
Write something in the chat. Let us know what you're doing.
Yeah, put it in the comment section below. Let us know, where do you volunteer and, what do you get from it?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your stories. Okay, so let's move on now to our interviews that we have today. So Danielle, who are we talking with?
So we're interviewing two wonderful women in the community. Our first interview is going to be with Kim Sabourin from Safe Families. And our second interview is going to be with Erin O'Manique from Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboard.
Oh, it's going to be great. Looking forward to talking with them. So it's great to have our first guest with us for this episode. So here we have Kim Sabourin, who is from Safe Families. So we're so excited to have you here with us at Good News, Kim. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And so maybe I'll just kind of start out of the gate here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Safe Families and what your role was in launching that here in the city of Ottawa?
Yes. Well, thank you guys both so much for allowing me the opportunity to share about Safe Families. So I am the regional director and we just celebrated our second anniversary. So that is good news right off the bat.
There you go. Congratulations.
Exciting. But I have been involved in fostering and adoption, both professionally and personally, for almost 2 decades. So when the opportunity came to launch a Safe Families chapter in Ottawa, I knew I had to be a part of it. And as you know, there are thousands of children throughout Ontario that are in some sort of foster care. So whether that's with a kin, in a group home, or in a foster home. And so I saw the problem and wanted to be a part of the solution. So Safe Families Ottawa is just one of 10 different chapters all throughout Canada. And we have more developing sites actually that are currently starting. And it is a not-for-profit movement of volunteers, and they are screened, they are trained, they are vetted, and we temporarily host children in homes so that parents can get back onto their feet. And so these parents who are in crisis, I mean, some of the crises that we work with would be like a mom who is pregnant and has no one to watch her children. So that is one way we can help. And then we have other families who have no support at all, and they are completely overwhelmed. So we wrap around them. And so these parents voluntarily place their children with us without the threat of child welfare being involved. And that is really, really critical to what we do. And I hear all the time from the families that we serve, Like, you just want to help us because you care. Like, you don't want anything in return. And so what Safe Families really is, it's a biblical form of hospitality. It is the love of a stranger. So we're so excited to be doing that in our city.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It just goosebumps when you talk about it. It's so exciting and so wonderful. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. Wow. And Kim, what would you say is your vision for helping families in crisis? What would you like to see here in Ottawa, or even across the country when it comes to Safe Families and Safe Families vision?
Yeah. I think our vision is that families in Ottawa would have a place to turn when they are struggling or when they're in crisis. Like, our big vision would be that they would feel supported and cared for, that they would have this extended family that they may not have. And we talk about it all the time, that our vision is that when they ask for help, that they would feel no shame, but instead that they would feel empowered and surrounded by caring, compassionate people who don't judge them for their situation, but really want to just journey with them. And I think that's all any of us want. We want to feel loved, we want to feel seen, and we want to be supported. And if we're in a crisis, we want to have people there for us. So I say to our volunteers all the time when we make a match, that now we have the opportunity to make that mom or that dad the hero of the story. So that is our vision. We want to see families be the hero of their own story, and to step out, say, I need some help. We come alongside them, and we become this incredible family.
That's so cool.
That is amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so great. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about how you basically gather volunteers and train volunteers for serving within Safe Families. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit, like, what are some of the ways that people get involved with your organization? What are different ways that people can help?
Well, I first of all want to say thank you to both of you and for your church for stepping up and for helping. We have families in your congregation who have actually stepped up and they're volunteering with us. We have volunteers who are on our leadership council from your congregation. So that is just so incredible. And so you were very invested in what we're doing, but we're always looking for more people to come alongside because the needs are so great in our community. And I recognize that not everyone can accept and receive a child into their home. We're not asking that everyone do that. But can you wrap around and support others who can? Can you be a friend? Can you be a coach? Can you offer a meal? I mean, do you have extra means? It costs about $50 a month to serve a family. And for some people, so that's $600 a year. For some people, that's like, absolutely, we can do that. That's one way we can help. But another way that everybody can actually get involved is we have a huge event in September called our Safe Families Play Day. So that's, if everyone wants to mark their calendar, that's September 25th. And we just want people to play for kids. So to commit, whether you're an individual, a couple, a family, a church, a business, just to say, we're going to raise funds for Safe Families. And that's just a one way that people can get involved. They can go for a run. They can do yoga. They can, whatever they want to do, they can do something to raise funds for Safe Families. And that's how everyone can help. So everyone can do something.
Okay.
I love that.
So
and when
cool.
you talk about play, it's so perfect with,
I'm in. Sign me out. I can play. That sounds pretty easy.
Play video games, like rollerblade, whatever. Like, just play for kids. Yeah.
It's so great because it brings us as adults back into the mindset of kids and families and what they need, right? Like, it's just to let your hair down and just live a life like a kid should live a life, right? Just play. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we will mark our calendars and figure out something to do. Thanks. Yeah. So Something else I was wondering, I know you never planned for a pandemic during, helping families in this amazing way that you do. But I imagine there might be a good news story, even during the pandemic, that sort of comes up to the surface. Obviously, confidentiality is important, but, do you have something that you could share with us, a good news story that you've experienced even amidst the pandemic?
I have so many good stories, which is awesome. The best news is that 100% of the children that we have served have gone back to their families. Wow. So that is one thing that is really, really vital, because our vision and our mandate is to keep children safe and families intact. So, since 2019, every single child that we have served has gone back to their families. So that is so, so huge. But yes, we have been serving kids right through the pandemic.
That's huge. And it's also different from what we've seen before in, like you say, child welfare. And that's like, I can't.
Yeah, I can see the hair standing
up. The hairs will not let go on my arm. That I can't believe that stat, although I believe it, you're telling me. That's huge. Well done.
We're creating systemic change, so these children don't have to experience the trauma. And so what we're going to see when you talk about that vision, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years down the road, what could it look like if kids haven't gone through this trauma? Because as a church, we have stepped up into that place. But one incredible story comes to mind, this precious young dad and his family. So we received a referral from Ottawa Public Health, and they started to advocate for this young dad who needed someone to take care of his newborn daughter. And so we thought, okay, of course, for sure, we can help. And they began to share this story. So this was a family that was brand new to Canada, and mom was getting ready to have her third baby. So they had two young girls, and they had their third baby on the way. Textbook pregnancy, nothing was it out of the ordinary. And they went into the hospital, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. Wow. And at one point, the doctor said to dad, you're going to have to choose between your wife or your newborn baby. Like, the story was absolutely heartbreaking, but miraculously, mom survived, baby survived, but mom ended up being in very rough shape. And so dad he had two girls at home in a pandemic, trying to homeschool them, a newborn baby, going to and from the hospital. And so Safe Family stepped in, and we have been caring for the little newborn since she was very, very young, and giving dad this support. We provide him meals, and we've wrapped around this incredible family. Mom has since been able to come home. She's been reunited. So she spent a long time in the hospital, but all of a sudden the weight of the world was off of this dad, because he had people that were there for him and supporting him. And so that is just one story of how we're making a massive difference in just the life of one family, and this little precious little girl who now just only knows all of these people who love her and adore her, and this family who, without Safe Families, it could have been a very, very different story. So it ended up being a really, really good news story.
Erin, I'm so glad that you could meet with us today and share a little bit about what you're doing with the Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboard. So welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're so glad that you could take some time out, and I know you're extremely busy, especially during this season, so thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about the Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboard, and specifically how you came to be involved in the last few years?
Well, sure. The Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboard is one of Ottawa's largest community food banks. It's now 32 years old. It has great support from the community, I have to say. We give about 1 week's worth of groceries right now. It used to be a little less, but because of the pandemic, we're doing more. We give about 1 week's worth of groceries and household supplies, baby items, etc., to families who need it. We focus very much on providing fresh, healthy, and culturally appropriate food, including lots of fruits and vegetables, and the dignity of choice. So people get to choose their food based on food groups. So it's a balanced diet. And we have managed to convert being able to come and shop around our space to an online system.
Wow.
So a little technical wizardry there. Yeah.
No, it sounds like it.
Yeah, we also run a community garden. The community garden behind us is something we run, and we have our own farm plot at the Just Food Farm where we grow vegetables, and we support refugee families to grow their own food as well as an alternative to using the food bank. We supported 9 families, extended families, last summer, and we're still sorting out that this year. But it's another way to support food insecurity.
That's great.
We just finished a new strategic plan, actually our first strategic plan in 32 years. Our building, which is owned by the City of Ottawa, has been condemned, and the land is been redesignated for affordable housing. So we're going to be part of a rebuild there in the next few years, which is super exciting. So we wanted to broaden our programming options and have a framework for that. So that's why we did a new strategic plan. And so we're envisioning a space with program space and kitchens and a place where we can come together around good food and help each other thrive through good food.
That's so great. I remember meeting with you like a few years ago when you first came on and hearing some of these visions and dreams. And it's so cool to see you putting those things into practice and moving forward on them. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is exciting for sure.
Yeah.
So how did I come to be involved?
Yeah.
Well, I've spent, 25 years in international development, focusing on agriculture and food policy and research. I switched about 10 years ago, 11 years ago to the local food scene. And I used to work with Just Food for a while. And this job posting came up and it intrigued me. So I applied. So that's how it happened. I mean, it wasn't something I had planned to do. But I'm glad that they chose me, and we're moving on from there.
Awesome. And I think you've been doing such a great job in the community and seeing the needs, but not only the needs, but how to address those needs in the long term. And so well done. You're doing such a fabulous job.
Yeah, it's not just needs. There's potential there too. I mean, I think part of this is changing the conversation around sort of giving and taking and people that are needy, as opposed to how can we unleash the potential? How can we help people thrive?
Right.
How can we build community? I mean, we can do all these things without, sort of coming from that needs perspective,
Love that.
Needy, calling people needy. It's like,
Right.
That's great.
Well, and you addressed a little bit of this already, but I was wondering if you could like kind of unpack it a little bit more. What is like kind of the big vision that you have in coming alongside and supporting families that are dealing with food insecurity?
Okay, well, we as a society have decided that it's okay for people to not have enough food. I mean, that's a fact when you consider the number of people that, are statistically are food insecure in the country. The numbers are quite staggering. And, in a country as rich as Canada, this is really a policy failure. It's a lack of political will, and it's left to the charitable sector to kind of pick up the pieces on this. So my vision for people is that they would have affordable housing, for example, and so they have money left to actually purchase food or, have the food they want to have, however, grow it for themselves, whatever, be able to have good food to have a good life. And for others, I guess, it's that their efforts to get an education. I see that with a lot of the newcomers, they're going to school, which is why they're coming to the food bank. And that will pay off with a good job that'll have decent pay and benefits, as opposed to, going to school forever to end up being a PSW where you can't find a full-time job or have to have 3 of them to run around and not have enough money for food. I mean, that's what happens. And for others, I guess, there are always going to need people who need more support. And so, that I envision them having a safe place where they can, be part of a nurturing community that supports them with good food, meals, and gives them an opportunity to contribute as well. I think everybody wants to give. And I think, that's another kind of space that we create, as a place where people can give. And I think everybody can do that, and everybody wants to.
Great. Yeah. And you talked about that, it's not just on your own. There's a lot of people that are kind of with you in moving this forward. You have a board, you have volunteers. How can we as the community, we as the church, the community, how can we help? What's the best way that we can get involved to move that vision forward?
Well, you can help on two levels. There's the micro level, which is about us and raising awareness about the GEFC, doing things like this, providing opportunities to get the message out. You can help at our farm site if you like. They can take opportunity. We have farm days. You can bring out a team. That's always exciting. You can obviously raise food and funds, which you've done in the past with the caravan last year, for example. You can help us support raising money for our new building. You could plan to run a program in our new facility, for example, host a breakfast once a week or something like that. I mean, we're creating the space for everybody to do stuff. So, there's lots of ways, as I said, at that macro level. I think at the micro level, the big picture level, advocating for social policy change that will make a difference addressing poverty, systemic poverty in our community. I mean, and that is affordable housing, livable minimum wage, full-time work with benefits for, companies that can afford to do that,
Right.
instead of keeping people at part-time to avoid benefits and not providing that living wage. I think the pandemic has really, really demonstrated, what these problems are, and, we need to address them. Also adequate income support, such as disability support. I mean, the number of people that come to our food bank because they're on ODSP and it's not enough money to cover their rent. And it means they can't handle their disability or their illness well. They have trouble managing that. They can't afford the right food. It's so limiting. And,
Right.
if people had a little more money in their pockets, basic income might be something we should really look at. So I think advocating for those kinds of social policy changes, I think would be an important way to support us as well, because that would eliminate the need for the food bank in general, which is the business I want to be in.
Right. It's the business to be out of business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think, as I said, I think we'll always need like a food community center of some kind, a neighborhood food center, which brings people together around food skills. There will always be a need for emergency food, I think, in some way. But I also can envision a space where we bring together different people, the different cultures around good food. I mean,
right.
I'd like to morph into more of that and less of the emergency.
Right.
From emergency to community a little more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
That's really
that's
good.
amazing. And so kind of just final question that we have for you is in your role, you meet so many different people and so many different families, and a lot of the times you hear about the hardship that people are going through. But we were just kind of curious, even in this pandemic season, what have been kind of some of the highlights? What has been kind of a good news story that you've experienced at the food bank that you'd be able to share with us?
Okay. The story that I'm going to share, it isn't about an individual family or how we've changed things for them. There are those stories. But what's really happened during the pandemic is an amazing array of partnerships that have emerged or tightened up as a result of the pandemic. It really forced us to deal with issues that we knew were already there. We've always known that there are people who have trouble getting to the food bank, for example, and with Eastern Ontario Resource Centre, now we've set up a team where we provide the food, they provide the vehicles because they've got a fleet, and we're delivering to people who are quarantining because of COVID or too vulnerable to go out anyway. And we both institutions identify these people. We've got the Mission food truck now serving hot meals once a week at the food bank. We're distributing the school breakfast program boxes to make up for the kids not being in school and being able to take advantage of the food through the school breakfast program. So those are the kinds of partnerships that emerged. But the best one, the really cool initiative I think is the good news story, is something called Cooking for a Cause. And there is an informal group of Ottawa food security providers, I suppose, called the Ottawa Community Food Partnership. And at the beginning of the pandemic, one thing that was noted was a whole bunch of food-based businesses went out of business and, or, stopped being able to work, caterers, etc. And then there was people that needed food, and there was all that infrastructure, all that cooking infrastructure that wasn't happening. So through some crowdfunding, through some government grants, through some other innovative mechanisms, we've been able to keep a whole bunch of small businesses, often owned by, minorities, keeping them going by purchasing home-cooked meals from them and distributing them. And over 30 organizations, I believe, now are distributing them. So we get them at the GEFC once a week. We're mostly getting them from a group called Yasmin's Catering, which was put together by a group of Syrian refugee women. And we're keeping them in, they get the odd catering gig, but like who has gatherings anymore, right? So they don't have, they don't have much business, and it's small. And so we're keeping them alive, and they're providing us with halal meals and soups that we can give to families to add to, it adds another meal to what we're giving them. So it's on top of our normal allocation. Plus, certainly for people that we're delivering to, to be able to just put something in the microwave and it's a good, wholesome meal is, it makes a big difference. That's not something we could offer before. You always had to cook and not everybody can cook. So, and that I think has been quite transformative. In fact, when you look at some of the downtown programs that are giving it out, the harm reduction programs, where they're going into places where there's, drug use or other chronic issues, and they're able to bring meals with them, which they never did before, they're seeing people get better. I mean, they're doing better in the pandemic because they're getting good meals on a regular basis. They're seeing wounds heal. They're seeing people with more energy. And then they're able to, maybe take advantage of some of the other programs that can help them get their lives back in order. I should send you a link to a little video that was made that you could probably show people. But there's a lovely the Ottawa Community Foundation put together about it, cooking for a cause. And it's just a brilliant little initiative. You can contribute to it. It's run through the Parkdale Food Center right now as a home base. And I think that's our good news story.
Wow, those were two great interviews. Really loved hearing their stories. And again, around that theme of volunteers, right? Because organizations like that, like they both shared, it's so dependent on the volunteers, people who love on their communities, who serve, and able to just be such a blessing in their community. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And it is such good news to hear about all that people are doing during a pandemic, but not only during the pandemic, all the time. People are just, big hearts, willing to help out in the community in unimaginable ways.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And so we're going to put links in the description of this episode where you can get more information about Safe Families and from the Gloucester Emergency Food Cupboards. And if you feel something tugging on your heart to be involved in those organizations, there's ways that you can, written there as well, ways that you could maybe donate to help out. And maybe, maybe those aren't the organizations for you, but, find a place where you can serve, you can volunteer. Like that would probably be a real blessing for you to do that as well.
These were inspiring. So if it's not your call or the thing for you, no worries. But wow,
find the one that is.
Yeah, they were inspiring stories.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up now. What we try to do is kind of watch a funny video or something like that. But what we thought we would do this time instead is show you the video that we put together from last year's Big Give event that we put on.
Yeah, we had to get creative because
we did. It was
right during the shutdown. I think things just started to open up, so we were allowed to do some outside things. But we kept people distanced. People were within their family groups. People were in vehicles. So we did what we could to make sure that we could still participate in the Big Give. And so we did a Big Give donation caravan. So we did a parade through the neighborhood collecting for local organizations. And it was such a blessing for us. And I know that many said it was a blessing for them to just to be uplifted in their community and to be able to give back at the same time. So let's have a watch.
Yeah, let's watch this and we can kind of narrate it as well. Cool. So there you see a bunch of our volunteers there. Getting ready to go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was when the masks were brand new. Remember that? So all decorated up. We were going around collecting food for the food bank. We were collecting furniture as well
Yep,
for helping with furniture.
Helping with furniture, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Had cute little kids involved too, and had music blaring.
yeah,
We had some singers going around singing.
there they are.
They were singing a High School Musical song. We're all in this together. Yeah.
They did a great job.
And of course, we had my friends.
Yeah,
Capital City
here's your
Garrison.
buddies.
They're my buddies. Capital City Garrison, 501st Legion. They organization all around the world that helps out with charity events like this.
Yeah. And people gave. They gave
Oh,
a
they
lot.
did.
Like we sent out a card earlier on letting people know what we were collecting
Yep.
and hoping that we were allowed to do it, which we were,
I know,
thankfully.
eh?
You have to plan ahead with hopes that, okay, can
Yeah.
we do this? And
Yeah.
it was all good.
Well, and we were very thankful for the relationship we had with the city of Ottawa,
Yep.
with our counselor Tim Tierney, who we've interviewed in past episodes here.
Yeah.
And so wanted to make sure we were above reproach on everything.
Yeah, he was
That's
with
what-
us. He helped us out that day.
Yeah, he's
He'll
in
be
the-
with
he's
us
in this
again.
parade, yeah.
He'll be helping us out again this time with the Big Give on June 5th as well.
That's awesome.
Okay, this blue guy.
Yeah, that must have been so hot because it was hot that day.
It was.
Yeah, there's our baby boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put him on carry the furniture duty.
Yeah, he's very much not a baby boy anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it was so fun, wasn't it? Just, we hadn't seen people in so long already, and that was just at the beginning of
That's right.
being,
Yeah, well, we had been shut down March, April, May, and now
then
we
we
were
got
coming
to-
into June. So this is the first time, even as
Yeah.
a church, we had gotten everybody together.
But I remember like telling
Yeah.
people, like we had the microphone at the church and saying, now you stay apart.
Yeah, stop
no
hugging.
getting,
Stop
no,
hugging."
No, they weren't hugging.
No, no one
but
was
no
hugging.
hugging. Stay back. Here's the Purell. We were just wanting to make sure to not do anything that was going to get in the way of blessing our community.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 People did up their cars, did up their dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. And what people were leaving, they were leaving furniture or food donations at the end of the street. So that's what the volunteers were doing. We're doing some entertainment. We had a magician as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a shot of him that
I
comes
think
up in the
there is
video.
one coming.
So we had a magician that was doing tricks. And again, we had the music playing, everyone dancing.
Yeah. Remember last year? Oh,
there's the
magician.
there's the magician there. Yeah.
But remember last year, it was really a thing to, have these parades for people's birthdays and
That's right.
vehicles. And
Yeah.
so it was, I think, a perfect time to just, do something like that.
Well, there's me busting a move.
Oh, yeah. You got moves.
Oh yeah, I got it. I can dance.
So we kind of did a hybrid. We're doing a hybrid this year from what we did last year because the shutdown is actually later than it was last year. So
That's
we were
right.
less confident to get out there.
So there's all the food that was
Yeah.
collected.
But we were still as interested to, be able to bless community. And so that's why we're doing a drive-through drop-off at the church this year.
That's right.
So people can bring their donations.
Yep.
But we're also doing a hymn sing at one of the retirement
Yeah, we want to bless
residences.
some of the residents at the local retirement home here.
Yeah, they'll be
retirement
on their
residents.
balconies and we'll be on
doing-
their
doing
driveway.
some singing for them, and we got
And-
some gifts for the staff and
Yeah.
things like that too. Just really bless them because we know they've had a pretty tough year for sure.
So yeah, we couldn't do exactly the same thing as last year, but I think it's turning out to be something pretty special for this year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, again, so appreciate all the volunteers that make this happen. We could never do it. Just as the pastor and the chaplain could never do this by ourselves. It's all of us working together. It's so
Exactly.
beautiful. So yeah, so that kind of wraps things up for this episode of Good News with Kev and Danielle. I hope you were really blessed by our time together today. If you like this show, man, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it on your social media because we want more and more people to hear about the good news. The good news of how much God loves them and how much God wants to do immeasurably more in their lives than we could ever even ask or imagine. And so we just love being a part of the community here and hope you're blessed.
Yeah, so that's it for today. And go and make some good news.
All right. God bless you, everyone.